Morning, good morning.
Good morning, Ray. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine. My green screen's not working.
it's working okay. I can see it there.
You can see a green screen, but normally you'd see something behind me, like a skyline or something.
Yeah, right. Okay. Is that like your studio or something? You've got your office?
Yeah. I am in
brilliant. Wow. That's like your den, your zone. Is it out of bounds for the kids, or do they still come?
No. There's a big sign on the door that says "Do not enter recording."
Yeah. Good. Thank you very much, Ray, for coming on to speak to us. I just remember for you, I was actually thinking, what is the best thing to ask you, because there's just so much knowledge there for you. I think I can probably spend days and days and capture so much wisdom from you. So I was thinking,
as long as it's any good.
Yeah, it is very, very good. I was talking to someone yesterday saying, I'm going to have Ray on the podcast, and he's got so many stories. Some of them sound like stories from like a movie or fiction, but they're actually real stories of Ray. Yeah. So I thought probably the best thing to begin with is to sort of capture your journey sort of from the beginning. It's like telling us your story in chronological order.
Okay.
From the early days, the siblings growing up, your memories, and then your journey to where you are. So if you think of it like 50 years, 100 years down the line, like the great grandchildren, I listen to this and they want to know, who was our great grand.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, that's quite a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if you take us through there, and then we can pick bits within of the lessons, the successes, and everything else within. So if you take us there from the beginning and your childhood and memories and school and growing up and career and so on. Yeah,
sure. Okay. Well, I suppose. All my family are entrepreneurs, and my father was probably one. But in those days, he was known as a businessman, and as a businessman, he did a number of things. So. When I was born, he actually had ice cream vans. It was on an estate in Edinburgh, a council estate in Edinburgh, and he drove around in ice cream vans, basically selling ice cream. And he had one, then he had two, then he had three. And he said to me that he credits his success with one of the summers was very long, and it was a long, hot summer. Many people, older people listening to this, 1976 was a long, hot summer, right? This was before then. And he said he was out early in the morning selling ice cream way up until after dark. I mean, he didn't stop when it got dark. He just kept going. And he said that, so in those days, everybody paid with small coins. Well, there wasn't a lot of paper money around, And he would come home and he'd tip the money into the bath. And his mother, my grandmother, who lived with him, thought that he'd robbed a bank. She thought he was actually a criminal. He couldn't be making this amount of money. So anyway, we then moved out of there to a different part of the city, and he bought a cafe. So it was like a corner shop, but it was a corner cafe in a sort of better part of town. And the cafe did really well. And again, they worked, from morning till night. They finished early on a Saturday, and they had the Sunday off. So the Saturday, instead of closing at sort of 9 or 10 o'clock at night, I think it closed at 6 o'clock at night. And him and my mother would go out, and I would stay at home with my two older brothers and older sister. They were much older than me, so they weren't playmates or anything like that. Yeah. But I did see them doing things like paper rounds and working, and when I sat in the cafe, I would sit in the corner, and they would effectively be doing business, selling teas and coffees and bottles of Coke. And one of my very early memories, and it's one of the reasons why I don't like wearing branded clothing or anything branded, is there was a delivery of Coca-Cola to our cafe, and the representative of the Coca-Cola company saw me sitting in the corner, and he gave me a T-shirt, and it was red, and it had in white writing right across the front, Coca-Cola. Okay, and I thought it was fabulous, this red T-shirt. So of course I pulled it on, and I was running around proudly because nobody wore any branded stuff in those days, you know. So all these bottles of Coke arrived, and I was proudly showing this T-shirt. And I remember my dad said to me, he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Look at this lovely T-shirt." And he goes, "Where did you get that from?" I said, "The Coca-Cola man, he gave it to me for free. It's a free T-shirt." He said, "You're running around with their advert on." He said, "Why would you do that for a T-shirt? What's wrong with you?" And I said, "Well, but it's Coca-Cola." And he went, "But you're advertising their product for nothing. Yeah. They haven't paid you." He said, "But I got a free T-shirt." He said, "It doesn't matter." He said, "Look, unless they pay you to wear it, get it off." So I took the T-shirt off. I think I ended up swapping it or selling it with one of my friends or something.
Yeah.
But later on in life, I remember people used to get those, you know, those Ralph Lauren shirts, polo Ralph shirts with the horse thing on it.
Yeah, yeah.
When I got one when I was about 17 or 18, I picked out the logo. I picked out the threads, and I was left with a hole, and I thought, "Oh my God, I've done the wrong thing here."
So those lessons stayed with you from your dad.
Well, I then in the cellar, in the cafe, sorry, there was a cellar, and you go down into the cellar, and it's where he kept all the, you know, I mean, it was a real dingy cellar. There was a toilet in there and cobwebs everywhere, and one single light bulb hanging. You know, it was like coming out of a horror movie, and a big wooden bench, and a sort of caged area, and the caged area had a padlock on it, and that's where he kept things, you know, that were, in case he got broken into, it's where they kept cigarettes and stuff like that. But the bench was a long wooden sort of bench with a sort of bar stool at it, and he used to sit there and count the money, and then occasionally he'd ask me to help him count the money. So again, I remember I must have been about 4 or 5, but I remember counting all the money, putting it into piles, sorting out all the notes into separate notes, because in Scotland we have lots of different notes. Okay, pound notes, £5 notes, they could be English, they could be Scottish, and in Scotland there are 3 different banks that issue notes. So what he asked me to do was to sort them all into different piles. Yeah. And I thought, well, that's a bit strange. Why would you want to do that? But he told me that if you sort them into piles, when you take them to the bank, you pay less bank charges. The bank doesn't sort them all out, they will charge you more. So anyway, and yeah, he just helped me in that sort of area with, you know, by osmosis, as it were. And then again, where you lived, where you went to school, where you worked in, again, was all very close. There was no commuting or anything like this. I mean, our house, our flat, it's in a tenemented area of Edinburgh. Tenement buildings are sort of flats that were built in the 1870s, 1880s, big apartments with a back garden where you could hang your washing out and things like that, and not many cars parked in the street. Sounds like I'm talking about 100 years ago, but it wasn't that long. So I would walk to school. I would walk to where my parents worked in the cafe. I also went swimming. There's a lot of swimming in those days, and there was a swimming bath around the corner, so I walked there. All my friends lived in the same area. We played football in the same area, and I went to the local church where we had Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts. Yeah. And my brother, my older brother, had won an award. It's a small silver cup, and it was for a competition called Bob a Job. Okay? Bob a Job. A Bob a Job. Now, a bob in way, I mean, the name carried on, but a way back, a bob was a shilling, 5 pence. So if you did a job, so if you went to, so the idea is in those days is you were a Cub Scout, you went to someone's house, you knocked on the door and you said, "It's Bob a Job week." Everybody knew it was Bob a Job week. Any jobs you want me to do? And they'd say, "Well, I want you to clear out the garage for me, or cut the grass, or wash my car, or run this errand for me." And they would give you money, and it could be, you know, it didn't have to be a shilling. It could be 5 shillings or a pound. And you would give them a yellow sticker that they would sort of lick and stick on the window, so that any other Cub Scout knew that they shouldn't go to that house because it had been done already. Been done. All right. But I was what, and in my, because we all lived in the same area, so most of the houses had these yellow stickers on. And I just remember thinking, all right, I thought, well, if they've had a job done, I mean, what's in the rules that says you're not allowed to go to that house again? You can go to that house again. So, of course, I would go to the house and someone would say, well, I've already had somebody here doing it. And I said, yeah, but, you know, now you know how it works. Do you want to, do you need anything else done? Yeah. Yeah, okay then. All right, yeah, come in. So it must have been the first or second house I went to, and I got a thumbs up, which kind of gave me the impetus to keep going. So when the competition ended, I was the winner. I collected the most money. Wow. It was over the course of a week. Yeah. So I'd collected the most money, and now I had the cup, and I had my name on it below my brother's name. Yeah. He won it, and then I won it. And then I sort of forgot about it till the next year, and then Bob a Job Week came around the next year. Of course, I hadn't told anybody what I'd done. I hadn't said, oh, by the way, I went back to the... Yeah, you don't have to not go to other people's houses. Yeah. And I thought, well, I'll just do the same thing again. Okay. So I did, and I won it again. So I now had my name on the cup 2 years. And then the scout leader, the cub leader said, if you win it next year, you'll have it 3 times. You get to keep the cup. Oh, wow. Whoa. Oh, okay. Challenge, yeah. So, yeah. So the next year I did it again. I won it again. So yeah. So that was all, you know, errands and messages and things like that. Then my father, by this time, had sold the cafe, and he, you know, our family wealth increased as he worked harder, as it were. He always used to say, you know, oh, you have to work hard, and you know, he was very much, if you want a job done, do it yourself, and all this kind of carrying. It was very old school in that way. Yeah. So whilst he was teaching me some lessons, he was also, he didn't know it and I didn't know it, but he was teaching me some other lessons, which came to be detrimental later on in life. And by that I mean, you know, you can't say things. You can't get the staff. You know, don't trust anybody to look after the money. If you want a job done, do it yourself. You've got to work hard. You know, it was all that sort of. So there was nothing about leveraging or outsourcing. So whilst he showed me a way, one way, he never really left me a path, as it were. He never really left me any kind of roadmap. He didn't say. He never sat down with me and said, "Oh, you do this is what you do," or "You do this," or "You do this." I was just told to, you know, go out and, if you want money, go and do a paper round and work, work for somebody, that sort of thing. So that would have been the early part of life. Early part. Yeah. Then our family fortunes, as it were, took an upturn. My father now had a pub. He had a pub. And I used to clean the toilets in the pub, and I just sort all the bottles out. You know, in a pub, you would be serving people, opening bottles of Coke, opening bottles of this and that, and the next thing, and throw them all into this tub. And then that tub had to be taken away and sorted out into crates, so that when the Coca-Cola men or the Schweppes men came to take the bottles away, it had to be their bottles that were in their crate. Yeah, so we had to do that. So that was my job. So that was my job, along with cleaning the toilets and sweeping the floor. And then, the pub was divided into 2 parts. So the front part was where all the men went, and the back part was where all the women went. It was the pub and the lounge. Yeah. And when I cleaned up, I'd quite often find money on the floor. You know. Oh, wow. So my father knew this, so he never paid me to do the job. Yeah. He never said, "Well done, here's some pocket money," or anything like that. He said, "No, you probably get enough money from picking up on the floor. You don't need to pay it." So I ended up doing a lot of work there and getting nothing, not getting paid for it. You know? Yeah. Bloody nightmare. Anyway. So our family fortunes took a turn for the better when one of my father's customers won the football pools. Now, the football pools is a bit like the lottery, the national lottery. So this was a regular customer, and he won the lottery, the football pools. Wow. It was, I don't know how much it was. I remember his name, but I don't know how much it was. His name was Dennis, and he wanted to buy the pub because he won the pools, I'll buy my local pub type thing, you know, because it was doing very well. It was quite successful. And it seems really strange to say this, but in those days it was very busy at lunchtime with a lot of taxi drivers who would come in and have 3 or 4 pints of beer and then go back to work.
Go back, yeah.
In fact, I remember actually finding, I might have it here somewhere, but I found an advert that they brought out at the time, and it was about, you know, drinking and driving and being careful. And it was a picture of what looks, you know, a gear stick on a car that has 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, for where you shift the gear, right? Manual stick. There was a picture of that. And it said, if you're going to drive, don't have 5. Oh. In other words, 4 pints was the maximum. These taxi drivers will go, well, I can only have 4 pints before I go back to work. Drive, don't have 5. But you know, I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find under images, you will find. You'll find
it, yeah. Wow.
Anyway, very busy at lunchtime. It was a busy pub. It was, you know, my father made a lot of money. As a result, we did quite well. You know, we moved to better houses, better accommodation. But then one of my dads, like I say, won the football pools, the equivalent of the lottery, and he wanted to buy the pub. And I think from memory, now my father's dead now. He died about 14, 15 years ago. But before he died, we had lots of conversations about things like this. And I think the pub was worth something like £60,000, something like that. Okay, which then was a lot of money.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
To put that into context, one of the tenement flats, one of the apartments in this area of Edinburgh where I lived, is called Marchmont. And if you want to buy a flat there now today, it's about anything from 350 to 600,000, depending on how big it is. Some of them are double flats, that sort of thing. So 350 to 500,000 for a flat.
Yeah.
When my father sold the pub, you could buy one of those flats for 4,000.
Oh wow!
That's the difference in inflation.
Yeah.
And so the pub was worth 60,000, which just shows you it was a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
But pubs were valued not on the bricks and mortar. Pubs were valued on the turnover.
Yeah.
So if your pub today, if you have a pub that does £1 million, then the valuation is £1 million, unless it's a spectacular building.
Yeah,
that's the general rule of thumb. So I remember my father said to me that it was £60,000. He didn't want to sell it, okay? But because Dennis had won the pools and had what seemingly must have been a lot of money, right? I don't know what the pools were, but it would have been in those days. So if you think about it, you buy a flat for 4,000. I think he won the equivalent, something like 250. He won 250,000.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably the equivalent of about 2 or 3 million now.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you won the pools in those days, you were set up for life.
I can imagine. Yeah.
I mean, they had famous football pools winners, and there was one, Viv, I think her name was, who won the pools in the 1960s. You know, they used to parade people out that won the football pools in the same way they do with lottery winners now. You know, they get a piece on the television, they open a bottle of champagne, and everyone goes, "Well, hey," you know. And this woman, Viv, can't remember her second name, but she was very famous because they said to her, "You've won the football pools. What are you going to do now?" And she said, "I'm going to spend, spend, spend."
And
spend, spend, spend. That was her mantra.
Yeah.
I think she did, and I think she ended up bankrupt or something. But one of the things they never tell you about the pools or the lottery is they show the winner, and it's usually a 30-second slot. Right? And they're holding up a big, massive check, and they open a bottle of champagne, and somebody says, "What are you going to do?" And they go, "House, car, holiday, look after our family and friends. I can't believe it. This is the best thing ever happened to me." And pop the champagne, and everybody goes, "Well done." Right? And then they go on to the next news item.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that if all the people who entered that week's competition, so just that one competition for the lottery on the Saturday, every single person who entered was given 30 seconds to say, "I didn't win." you know, 30 seconds. Oh yeah, I bought a quick dip at the local corner shop. I checked my numbers, but I didn't win. If every person who entered got 30 seconds to say that on the news, it would take over 40 years to hear them all.
Whoa.
From just one draw.
Wow.
Apparently, yeah. I'd have to fact check that, but so anyway, so this guy Dennis was quite persistent, and he ended up buying the pub for much more than it was worth, really. Yeah. But nevertheless, that boosted our family's wealth. So my father went then on to buy a larger hotel, which had a function room, which had a restaurant, bars, lots of rooms, all that sort of carry on. So they moved up a bit, and by now I was now leaving primary school and to go to secondary school. My brothers and sisters were all older than me, so they'd all already left. So my father had this bright idea that I would go to a boarding school because, him and my mother and father now, they had 3 children under 5 before they were 21. And then sort of 10 years later, they had me. So so I think they thought, well, all our kids are growing up in a way except for this one. Yeah. Let's get rid of him. Let's get him into boarding school. Yeah. So they sent me to quite a famous boarding school for my final education. And so I got sent off to boarding school, which was a bit challenging because having now my older brothers and my sister were, my sister went on to do hairdressing. She was working for herself. My other brother went on to learn all about clocks and watches and to become his self-employed clock repairer. And my other brother was fitting windows and stuff like that. So they were all self-employed. They'd all now at 18, 19, 20 had moved out, had their own place. Not working for anyone type thing. So this was the sort of feeling around the family at the time. So I'm at boarding school and I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to be a businessman like my dad. What do I need all this maths and physics, chemistry for? I don't need any of that rubbish. And at the boarding school, you weren't allowed to have bicycles. And it was a big campus, but everybody had to walk everywhere. And it was in a city. It was in a city. No one was allowed bicycles. And I thought, well, this is really odd because I used to cycle everywhere, So I arranged to get a bicycle and hide it in the grounds of the school. So that, when you got out, I would cycle off, you see. And then I hit upon a plan, which was usually at night, sort of after you'd finished what was called prep, you'd finish schoolwork and you'd do homework, and you'd finish by 8:30, something like that. What the prefects would do, the older boys, they who were 16, 17, 18, is they would send one of the junior boys with a list to go to the local Chinese takeaway and bring the food back. Of course, by the time they'd walked in, it wasn't that far away. It was a mile or something like that. But by the time they'd walked away in, got everything and walked back, the food was a bit cold or not as hot. So I thought, well, if I cycle there and cycle back, I'm going to be bringing hot food back. Maybe they'll use my services. Of course, I couldn't tell the prefects I was on a bike. Right? Grasped me up to the headmaster. But when you went there, for each order that you got like 50p or something. So if there were 5 prefects, well, you'd get 5 50p's. You get yourself a couple of, good few quid. And I thought, oh, okay, this is good. So I would cycle into the Chinese, get the stuff and cycle back and be back much quicker than anyone else could do it, hide the bike and then run in and dish out the food. And that worked quite well, actually. Until I was called into the housemaster's office one day, and he said, I understand that you have a bike, and you know the rules about bikes, so you have to get rid of the bike. So I was like, right, okay, yes, okay, I'll get rid of the bike. So I thought, oh, that was that. But the customer demand, shall we say, was quite high. you know, saying, "Oh, come on, can you not go at the Chinese for us, or can you can you bring it?" And I thought, right, okay, customer demand, you know, supply and demand. I'll just have to keep going, right? But I'll try and take a different route. So that kept up for another while, and then eventually I got called into the housemaster's office again, and he said, "Right, I told you to get rid of the bike. You didn't get rid of the bike. Clearly, breach of discipline, right? 6 of the best with a cane, right?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, ouch. And get rid of the bike. Okay, fine." That lasted not very long. Again, supply and demand, customer demand was there. I thought, I'll do it again. Anyway, I did it again. And this time, you know, I was rumbled again.
Yeah.
And this time I went to the headmaster's office.
Wow.
The headmaster of the school. I didn't know. I knew him, and he was a sort of revered figure. But what I didn't know then, what I know now, is that he'd been a prisoner in Japanese prisoner of war camps.
Oh.
Quite, you know, I mean, badly affected by that. He was a raging alcoholic. Everybody knew that he was just about drunk all the time when he was giving lessons. I mean, he was, don't get me wrong, he was a good headmaster.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think, you know. I mean, we knew that he liked a sherry, as we would say.
Yeah.
But he was probably knocking back half a bottle of whiskey before lunch. But of course, clearly he had all these demons. Anyway, I think when I went to him and he gave me a lecture about, you know, discipline and understanding and how the school can't function if everybody breaks the law and yada yada, all that's carry on. And his study was this sort of wood-lined room, you know, with a suit of armor in the corner and gilded pictures, paintings above the crackling fireplace, and a Chesterfield sofa, which is a leather sort of button-back sofa, and the big high chair, and then in the corner would be his desk with the green banker's lamp on it. You know, you get the impression. Crackling fire, and he had a dog lying in front of the fireplace. Yeah. Whilst he gave me this lecture about how I should be, you know, following the rules and everything. Right, okay, fine. And then he says, right, I'm going to have to now beat you. Oh. So I had to lean across this Chesterfield sofa while he took out this a bendy cane, you know, and basically beat the bejesus out of me. Yeah, and I remember it was bloody sore. But anyway, and at the end of it, he gave me a glass of sherry. Jesus. So anyway, so I'd go back to the boarding house, and of course all the guys were there, and they're like, "What happened?" And of course I had to take my trousers down and let them see the evidence. Yeah, this ploughed field across the cheeks of my arse, you know, where this was taking place, and they were all like, "Whoa, hero, you know, legend." Well, that was me trying to be entrepreneurial and getting the out of me for it. Anyway, that's that. So, so that was my schooling, and I left school. I actually wanted to be a vet. And in the summer holidays, I'd been shipped over to relatives in Ireland, and one of them lived near a farm. Well, everybody in Ireland lives near a farm, but this one was quite literally sort of 200 yards down the road. I mean, it was a you know, farmhouse. It was quite close, with lots of pigs. It was really smelly. It had lots of pigs in pens and cows and a lot of manure around. And I would go down there in my wellies and clean all the pigs and feed the pigs and do all this kind of carry on. And having gone to a boarding school, you know, I would say I did get a higher level of education than most of the local kids. Yeah, you know, the local kids there and my cousins and things like that, they were all like, "Yeah, we're just gonna, you know, do manual jobs or drive a van or something or whatever it was." I remember the vet coming to fix, you know, whatever was wrong with the pig or something like that. I would always go with the vet and say, "What's that for?" And then he'd tell me about the drugs he was using, and I'd remember that from my chemistry lessons. And I remember him sort of, well, I don't think he was impressed, but I think he was kind of, "Oh, you know, you've got a bit more intelligence about you than other people." So he allowed me to carry his bag, and he allowed me to. So the next time he went to, you know, visit a cow and a calf or fix some farm animal, I would go with him and carry his bag, and I absolutely loved it. And then he told me all about what a vet was and what vets did. And then he encouraged me to read books by a country vet called James Herriot. So I read these books, James Herriot, and there was a TV series that spun out of it many years later called All Creatures Great and Small. Yeah. About the life of a Yorkshire country vet. Yeah. So I started reading these books and getting right into it. And then, of course, when I went back to school, and you're getting on to sort of 15, 16, they say, well, what do you want to do with your life? And I went, I want to be a vet, right? I want to be a vet. So when you want to be a vet, they'll say, right, okay, for the next year, you need to study, biology, chemistry, physics. If you're doing, and the way it worked, if you're doing physics, you've got to do mathematics and this, that, the next thing. Well, I was absolutely rubbish at mathematics, physics. Great at biology, loved biology. I was top grades at biology, top of the class, fantastic results, all the rest of it. But I could not get my head around chemistry. So that was going to thwart my ambitions to become a vet. Yeah. So when the final exams came in, I didn't have a high enough score to go to university. So I thought, well, all right, well, that's the end of that. Then I'll have to rethink things. So I then went home and told my father. I was still living at home then, obviously, and I told him, and I said, I'm not going to go to university. He's like, all right, okay, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't know. I'll figure it out, sort of thing. So he said, right, okay, you figure it out. Let's see what happens. So I went to see what my options were. And I spoke to the school careers thing, and they said, well, look, what you can do is you can go to college. You can go to college to night school. And if you go to night school, you can do chemistry at night school. And if you get the exam, then you should be able to get into university. Yeah. And I also applied for jobs that were revolved around, chemistry, vets, that sort of thing. I tried to become a vet's assistant, and I applied for another job to work beside a vet or clean the toilets in a vet or anything, but I kept getting rejected. But I did apply for a job at the Lothian and Borders Police Forensic Laboratory, forensic scientist. Yeah, and I got it. I mean, I was, I was like a junior lab assistant. I wasn't even that. I think I was a junior admin assistant. I didn't even get in the lab. I was administrative assistant. So I ended up doing that during the day and then trying to do the chemistry thing at night. But I didn't pass it. I flunked it. And so my dad said to me, so now what are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't know. And he said, right, well, okay. If you're going to stay here, you need to give your mother money every week. You can't stay here. You have to give her, 50 quid a week or something. And I thought, right, okay. I then met a friend of mine, and he had been given the same ultimatum by his get put money on the table each week, or you don't eat here. You're a man now. You're 18. You're a man. You got to start contributing, or you can, you can get out and find your own way. I mean, there was no mercy. It wasn't like like now. It was you pay your way or you get out.
You get out. Wow.
And of course, the jobs market then was horrendous. I mean, it was not good. Sort of 80s. It was mass unemployment and all this sort of carry on. So getting a job was just horrendous. It was just getting rejections everywhere, no matter what you went for. Clean toilets. We have enough toilet cleaners, I'll do this. I'll be a gardener. No, with no vacancies. I'll do anything. No, nothing. So the deadline was looming that if I couldn't plonk money on the table, I was going to get out.
Get out. Yeah.
I didn't understand or realize there was any concept of welfare or anything like that, because in our family it was you work. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was in the pub, as you are, with my mate discussing this whole situation. And a man came up and he said, you look like a couple of strapping young lads. You should join the army.
Wow.
And we sort of looked, so I went, the army? What do I want to join the army for? Now, my mate was a bit more reluctant than I was, because having been at a boarding school, we did a thing called CCF, Combined Cadet Force, where you get to pretend you're in the army every Wednesday afternoon. You can either join the army, the navy, or the air force, or you go and you don't play sports. You do one of those things. So I joined the combined cadet force, the military bit, the army bit, and so I had a taster for it.
Yeah,
and I thought it was quite good.
So my laptop wasn't connected to the battery.
Are you running out of juice? That's all right.
Yeah.
So so I thought that, but I remember. I don't know if you know or remember a comedian called Billy Connolly, Scottish comedian. Yeah.
Right. I remember him very well. Yeah.
Billy Connolly. I remember he did a song, and it was about the army, and it said the title of the song, I think, is "I'm Asking You, Sergeant, Where's Mine?" It's the story of a soldier lying in a hospital bed, lying in a hospital bed, and I think the words were, he said, about how the recruiting sergeant got him to join the army, but here he was, he'd been shot or blown up or something, and he was lying in a hospital bed, badly injured, and he was thinking about how he got in the army, and he remembered the recruiting sergeant saying, all your talk of computers and sunshine and skis. Yeah. Well, I'm asking you, Sergeant, where's mine, right? I mean, I'm lying in a bed here, blown up. I never saw computers, sunshine and skis. I'm asking you, Sergeant, where's mine? So it was a great song. Anyway, so I remember that the recruiting sergeant was very much, you join the army, you'll see the world. It was you will computers. You'll learn how to use computers, and sunshine when you go to all these different places and cultures and skiing and swimming. We all showed you all the pictures of loads of guys your age having fun and being all, being all muscular and everything and strapping and all of that stuff. That's how they get you into the army. The reality is completely
get blown up.
The reality is completely different. So I don't quite have pictures of me doing my recruiting. I'll need to find the pictures of me recruiting, but I think there is a picture of me.
Oh wow, that's a brilliant picture actually.
Many years ago, aged 18, windswept and interesting. Young, whole life ahead of him. Blah blah blah. There's another picture of me on the rifle ranges.
Wow. Brilliant. And where was that? Where was the training? Was that in Scotland itself?
So the training, first basic training was in England, in Grantham. I went to, for some reason, when you join, they say, do you want to be, they give you the choice. Do you want to be an engineer? Do you want to be an infantryman? Or do you want to be, they've got all these different parts of the army. And one of the options was the Royal Corps of Transport. Now, the attraction to the Royal Corps of Transport was that they teach you get your driving license. You get your driving license, and they'll teach you how to ride a motorbike, which I had anyway. So you get your motorbike license, your driving license, heavy goods license. You will quite literally. In fact, I think I found it the other day. You'll be able to get your heavy goods vehicle from the army. From the army. So there we go. There's my heavy goods vehicles driving license.
Wow, that's brilliant. Wow.
So I learned all of that in the army, which was great. I absolutely loved it, enjoyed it. It was fantastic, and I was so good at it. I got picked to go to Royal Military College, Sandhurst. So there was a picture of me in my room at Sandhurst. Now having being elevated to a completely different level now. You're there, you're sort of 19, 20, and to get up in the morning, someone knocks on your door and brings in a cup of tea because you're now an officer training, and they polish your shoes for you and all that sort of carry on.
Wow.
So I did all of that for a few years. Went to Germany, and in the difference between Britain and Germany in those days was, culturally completely different. a lot of the soldiers who came back from Germany were complaining about back to the UK from Germany. Were complaining about the beer. You know, the beer here is not as good as it is in Germany. It's really I wish somebody would bring in proper beer. And I thought to myself, aye, there's an opportunity here.